the second episode of Geared to Make. It's early in the morning. Everybody's still sleeping, but I thought I would get my webcast in there and greet you guys. Hello to all my subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. Hello to anyone new. Welcome. I want to give a shout out to my nieces who are encouraging me from afar. Tegan, Micah, and Sophia. Hello, ladies. I'm drinking my tea. This morning's blend is vanilla chai from Bigelow. I love this stuff. So good. Out of my favorite coffee cup. Tea mug from Sow's Ear, which is a knitting store / cafe in Verona, Wisconsin. If you're ever out that way, they have fabulous food and an equally fabulous collection of unique yarn. It's not the same stuff you see everywhere. So, good morning, everyone. I've had a fairly productive 2 weeks since I last posted. I'm continuing on my Anna vest. I've finished the back. So, hey guys, thanks for the encouragement and that extra shot of action, knitting action. So this is the right front, which has, so you can see that I have the right piece of the vest done along with my mushroom progress keeper from Hey Holly Ho Hum. I love her progress keepers. I love her yarn too, but she's got great progress keepers. And so that's going along pretty well. I was getting really nervous that I was going to run out of yarn. I'm sure that happens to lots of people. So I called Wool and Honey up in Cedar, Michigan, and they sent me 2 more. So that was great. Yay, they still had some. So I did that, and I just could not keep just one project on my needles, so I cast on a new project. My next project is something that I've had in my Ravelry feed for quite a while, and I actually have the yarn in my stash. I'm using Rowan Tweed, and it is called the Northman Mitts, and double pointed. I think they're size 3s, and I am very happy with the colors. I think it's showing up a little bit more cream than they are. It's actually a light gray, and the blue's showing up fairly well. But I had plotted out some colors, some alternate colors, because I think I have about 4 or 5 different colors. So I'm thinking that I'm going to make a green for the palm, for the upper part of the mitt. In fact, let me get that just a second out. And last year at Studio S Fiber Arts in Delavan, Wisconsin, I taught a mitts class. And in the midst of helping everybody figure out their colors and where to go, we decided that we would plot out colors on graph paper. So I started out that way, and I got out my trusty journal and started playing around with different color combinations, and that was helpful. But to me, equally helpful, if not more so, is starting out with the actual yarn and making some swatches that way. So here's my first one. This is actually a medium gray with an oatmeal colorway. So I was pretty happy with how that turned out. But then I also made another swatch, and this one is like a limey green color with a medium blue. And I'm really liking how this one's turning out. You can see it needs, on that other side, it's going to need a bit of blocking to even out the pattern. And you know, there's a trick when you're knitting Fair Isle or knitting in the round to introducing a new yarn. You can see here that I have this small jog, but for the most part, my lines are continuing straight across. But if you look at this one, let's see. If you look at this one, you can definitely see that I forgot to do the join. The trick is you knit around, and when you introduce the second new color, you slip the stitch from below. So you've gone all the way around the first stitch of your new row. You slip the stitch below, and then you knit that together with the stitch that's on there. I'll provide a link to that in my show notes. But there's definitely a choice, or there's definitely a jog difference when you use that technique. Let's see. So you can see that. See, it's better. Oh, and another whimsical, fun little progress keeper from Hey Holly Ho Hum. I'm like her own little fan, her fandom. Oh, and I forgot to mention, with the Anna Vest, I forgot to show you last week the buttons that I had got from Woolly Moss Roots off of Etsy. So I think these are going to look fabulous, and they're little bees. Can you guys see that? So I can't wait to put those buttons on. Good times in knitting world. So in the class that I taught last spring at Studio S, we made the Latvian fingerless mitts pattern by Veronica Avery. We love Veronica Avery. I love Veronica Avery. Last episode, the first episode, I made the wake sweater. And these are the fingerless mitts. Now, I will say when I made these, I was using a lot of leftovers from Koigu and Claudia hand-painted yarns. So the pattern isn't as clear as it could be. In the class, my students were making, they were making combinations. One woman did like a silvery gray background with bright, bright yellow and orange. They were such happy fingerless mitts. I just love them. So the students really did so well, and it was a great class to teach, and I love teaching up at Studio S, so it's a lot of fun. I've done some sock classes up there too, so it was a good time, good people up there. And Deb, the owner, she's fabulous. So like I was saying, if you're doing a bit of Fair Isle, I would suggest plotting out your colors on some graph paper and playing around. Or if you're like me, I like to knit a little bit, see what it looks like, and then move forth. My husband and my son and I were hot on Stranger Things, and it's so good. I highly recommend it. However, it's a Netflix show. However, we're done with that now, and we don't have anything to watch, which is, it's getting colder out. We like to have our scary movie or, thriller movie night on the weekends. So if you have suggestions, I'd love to hear what you have out there. So what else is going on? So since I started a new project and I'm playing around with color for the Northman mitts, I have absolutely 0 finished objects. Oh, but you know what I did forget to show you? On my vest, my Anna vest, I remembered last week that I had never shown you the buttons to go that I got to go with it. So I got these from Etsy, from Woolly Moss Roots, and they're little bees. Can you guys see? And they're gonna look absolutely fabulous. Next to this color yarn. Oh, they're gonna be dynamite. So I'm pretty excited about that. Good times in knitting and button land. So no finished objects. So let's move on to quilting. So Monday, it was really, 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 really hot here. So since it was a day of rest, and I finished my squares, my Heather Ross squares for my quilt. So I'm not quite sure how many I have, but it's a stack this big. So these are all my quilt squares I have. What I have to do now is go through and square them up, which basically means you find the measurement. I forget what the measurement is of the squares. What does this look like? 7 inches maybe? 7-inch square. And you measure to make sure that your items really are square so that when you do the final matchup, your seams aren't wonky and your edges and everything stay straight. But then I was thinking, I haven't laid this out, so I don't know quite how big it is. I'm guessing it's not as big as I want it to be. I want it to be like an oversized lap quilt, something to cuddle up on the porch in the summer. We'll definitely use it in the winter. But then I was thinking, wouldn't it be fun to put a very thin ladder in between? And when I mean ladder, pieces in between, it'll make the quilt a little larger, but it'll also break up the colors. I love the colors of this quilt, but it's very busy. And so I was wondering if I took either this pale lavender color or maybe this pale blue and did a very thin ladder between all the squares. I'm thinking 1/2 inch, no bigger than 1 inch. So you do 1 inch, by the time you do 1/4 inch on both sides, you end up with 1/2 inch. So I think that'd be just about right. And I think I would really like that. So the project is stopped now. I'm going to try to square these up this weekend, but the project is stopped until I can get to the fabric store and look for some solids. Since I want to get some Kona solids, I think, for the middle. So that's in process still. And what else? Oh, so sewing wise, okay, Mom, if Dad is watching, he has to leave the room now. But sewing wise, or stop the video, Mom. Last year, I made my dad a flannel shirt for Christmas, and he was very happy with it because for the first time, the sleeves were long enough. And, when you stretch your arms out, they weren't too short. So he loved it. So, repeat a good present, right? So I found some fabulous flannel at Joann's. And, heavier flannel is hard to find. I had ordered some through some online sources, some swatches, but they were very light. And so if you know a good flannel source, particularly online, that has heavier flannel, please let me know. Anyway, here's what the new shirt is going to be made out of. And it has a very slight herringbone design to it, but it's just, oh gosh, I can't wait. I was thinking of putting it together maybe with a red yarn, or I don't know. Should I do some kind of highlight of yarn, or I should say thread? Highlight thread, or just leave it alone and match like a gray. So let me know about that. And so that's all I have for quilting and sewing. I've been watching Stitch in Sweden lately, and she's making bras, which I just find fascinating. I was involved in 4-H for years. My mom was our 4-H sewing teacher. She did a fabulous job. Many a seams were ripped out by my friend Judy and I with the seam ripper over and over and over. But we learned how to sew a straight line, and we learned how to sew. But I never really learned how to alter patterns. And I'm really interested in that right now. And I've been watching various webcasts on it and watching people go through. I've even purchased a Craftsy class. I really looked hard in my area to find a place I could go and learn, but there are no sewing stores where you can go and learn pattern alterations that are local to me. Certainly, there are some in Chicago, but that's about a 2 hour ride one way. And then I did find a few in Milwaukee, but that's kind of far too. So I bought a couple of Craftsy classes. I haven't had a chance to go through those yet, but I'm hoping that one, I can start with a basic t-shirt. I want like a basic good quality t-shirt, and that the Craftsy class that I signed up for, that I bought, just so you know, I'm not getting any kickbacks from Craftsy, but it's a really good way to learn, and every once in a while they have 50% off sales on their classes. And I never knew that when you sew with knit material, you're not supposed to stretch it as you sew. You're supposed to use a walking foot. So lots of learning going on there. And I'm hoping that eventually I learn how to make a great t-shirt. And then in the mail today, so we've moved on from quilting. We're still talking about sewing, but new acquisition. I got this dress pattern from Colette. It's called Rue. It's brand new this week. And they have all kinds of alternative patterns, but the one that catches me, it's a very Jackie O kind of dress. And the one that caught my eye was on their website, Colette's website. And it looked like three quarter length sleeves, but it was done in this beautiful like Scottish plaid pattern. And the dress in this pattern is fully lined, and it comes in sizes 0 to 26. So lots happening. I got the printed pattern because it saves me a trip to Kinko's or wherever to get the pattern made. So we'll see how that goes. But first, a t-shirt. Well, first, Christmas presents, then a t-shirt. But I do think the online class is going to help me kind of fill in the learning that I don't have in my repertoire. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll share my experience with you as we move along the way. So anyway, Stitched in Sweden is doing bra making, which I am just fascinated by that. And there I kind of poked around and looked at bra supplies, so that's far in the future yet, but it's fascinating to me. Mail call, we talked about the Rue pattern, so that was really fun. I have been watching Opera Joe, and she's doing a knit along with fellow knitter Once Upon a Corgi. And so I was poking around on her Etsy site, and I ordered some Halloween yarn. So that should be here by the time I do the next webcast. So that's kind of exciting. On the recipe front, we made Alton Brown's paella, which I highly recommend. It's a really great family meal for the weekend. My son was doing the sous chef responsibilities, lots of slicing and dicing. My husband did the cooking, and I did getting all the ingredients together, and it makes a big batch of food. So if you're like us where dinner time is a struggle, the Alton Brown paella recipe is fabulous. And we don't have the kind of grill that allows us to make it outside, so we just made it in the oven and just kept cooking and moving along and following the recipe that way. I think you could do it on the stovetop as well. And that brings us to one of my favorite parts of today's show, and what am I reading? And right now, I'm reading two similar books. I actually finished these, so that'll be my little book talk for today. These are both young adult novels. I seem to have a liking for those. And the first one is I Woke Up Dead at the Mall by Judy Sheehan. And the second is The Devil's Intern by Donna Hosey. And you can see there's definitely a theme going on here. And both of these are funny, and they're heartbreaking, and they're very interesting in how the different characters cope with finding themselves being dead. In the first one, let's see. In the first one, Sarah wakes up dead at the mall, which is kind of like the holding station, and she realizes that someone has murdered her. And so while she's in this middle zone, she's trying to do some sleuthing and figure out who it might be. And the second, The Devil's Intern by Donna Hosey, this features Mitchell Johnson, who is in his 15th year in hell as the devil's intern. He's overworked, he's stressed out, but he has 3 really good friends, and they have endless questions about their deaths. And that's all I'll say about that. But they're both really good, so I highly recommend them. So, Geared to Make, you can find me on Instagram and on Ravelry. Thank you to my subscribers. I appreciate every moment you give these webcasts of mine. And to anyone new watching, hello, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like it. My name's Michelle, and I'll see you next time.